Hello, and welcome to another gentle journey on Sleepy Professor Stories. Tonight, you are invited to step into a quieter chapter of our planet's long and patient story. Not a chapter of sudden storms or sharp edges, but one written slowly in frost and light. The Ice Age is often imagined as harsh and endless, yet it unfolds across thousands of years, like a calm breath drawn in by the earth. Vast white landscapes stretch beneath pale skies. Wide grasslands ripple gently under cold winds. Heavy clouds drift without hurry. Across frozen plains, ancient animals move with steady purpose, their thick coats brushing against the air. Early humans gather near small fires, living carefully within rhythms far older than memory. This is not a tale of struggle alone, but of adaptation, balance, and quiet endurance. If you find comfort here, you are welcome to support this channel in any small way that feels natural to you. A simple gesture can help others discover these calm explorations of science and history. But there is no expectation and no urgency. For now, there is nothing you need to do, nothing to solve, no details to hold on to. Let your breathing grow slower, deeper. Feel your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Your eyelids may grow heavy, and that is perfectly fine. The story will continue whether you drift into sleep or remain gently awake. You can simply listen or simply rest. Let's begin. There is a moment long before memory when the world begins to cool. Not suddenly, not with drama, but gradually, like a room dimming at the end of day. You can imagine the Earth turning through space in its steady path around the sun, on its tilt shifting ever so slightly over vast stretches of time. These small changes in orbit and angle alter how sunlight reaches the surface. Summers in certain northern lands grow a little softer. Winters linger just a little longer. Snow that once melted completely now remains, layer upon layer, pressing gently into itself. Over centuries, that snow compacts. Air becomes trapped between crystals. The white surface grows denser, bluer, heavier. What begins as delicate snowfall slowly transforms into ice. Not brittle and thin, but thick, patient, and immense. You do not need to picture violence here. The Ice Age unfolds in silence. As more snow survives each summer, ice sheets begin to form across high latitudes. They spread outward from the poles and from mountain ranges, not as rushing floods, but as slow-moving blankets. Imagine standing at the edge of one of these ancient ice sheets. It stretches to the horizon, luminous beneath a pale sky. The air feels crisp, clean, almost still. There is no urgency in its movement. In fact, it moves so slowly that over a human lifetime, you would barely notice it advancing at all. Yet across thousands of years, these glaciers travel. Their enormous weight presses down upon the land beneath them. Rock and soil respond to this pressure. Valleys are deepened. Hills are smoothed. Beneath the ice, stone is ground into fine powder. The glacier does not hurry its work. It reshapes continents with the patience of deep time. As ice expands across land, it draws water from the oceans. Vast amounts of the planet's water become locked within these frozen sheets. Sea levels begin to fall. Coastlines shift outward, as areas that were once shallow seas become exposed plains. In some regions, land bridges quietly appear between the continents, allowing animals to wander where waves once moved. The map of the world slowly redraws itself. And still, life continues. Between the great ice sheets lie wide grasslands, often called cold steppes. These open landscapes are not empty. Hardy grasses ripple beneath low sunlight. Shrubs cling to the soil. The air is cold, yes, but not lifeless. You can imagine herds of grazing animals moving steadily across these plains, their breath visible in the chill. They follow the rhythm of seasons that feel longer, slower, more deliberate. The sky above these Ice Age lands often appears vast and pale. Cold air holds less moisture, and so clouds can feel thin and distant. Sunlight reflects brightly from snow and ice, casting a soft glow across the terrain. In winter, darkness stretches for long hours in northern regions, while summers bring extended daylight that lingers near the horizon. The cycle of light and dark becomes a powerful guide for every living thing. You may notice how calm this world feels in your imagination. It is not a frozen wasteland, but a place of adjustment. Plants evolve to endure shorter growing seasons. Animals grow thicker fur, deeper layers of fat. Bodies become adapted to conserve warmth. These changes happen gradually over many generations, guided by survival and time. Beneath the glaciers, the Earth responds as well. The immense weight of ice presses the crust downward. In some areas, the land sinks under the burden. And when the ice eventually retreats, thousands of years later, the ground slowly rises again. The planet is flexible in this way, adjusting to weight and release like a slow-breathing body. Winds also shift during these colder periods. With so much water locked in ice, atmospheric patterns change. Dry, cold air can carry fine dust across great distances. Tiny particles settle onto ice sheets, forming delicate layers that will one day be studied as records of ancient climates. Each layer holds subtle clues about temperature and atmosphere, like pages in a quiet archive. You do not need to remember these details. There is nothing to memorize. You can let them drift past you like snowflakes, settling softly before melting into the larger story. The important thing is the feeling of gradual transformation. The Ice Age is not one single frozen moment. It is part of a repeating rhythm in Earth's history. Over hundreds of thousands of years, colder periods alternate with warmer intervals. Ice advances, then retreats. Landscapes shift, then settle. Life adapts, then adapts again. The planet moves through these cycles without hurry. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast tundra during one of these glacial periods. The ground beneath your feet is firm, perhaps dusted with frost. In the distance, low hills curve gently, shaped by moving ice. A herd grazes quietly far away, their forms dark against the pale earth. The wind brushes past you, steady and calm. There is space here, space to breathe, space to observe. Early humans live within these landscapes too. They do not dominate them. They follow migrating animals, learn where water flows beneath ice, and build small shelters against the cold. Fire becomes a steady companion, offering warmth and light in long nights. Communities form around shared effort and shared knowledge. Survival is not frantic, it is attentive. The Ice Age world is vast, but it is not chaotic. It operates according to physical laws and steady patterns. Small changes in orbit influence sunlight. Sunlight influences temperature. Temperature influences ice. Ice influences oceans and winds. Everything connects in a quiet chain of cause and effect. And as you listen, you may sense how immense time truly is. These transformations unfold across spans far beyond a single lifetime. The glaciers advance by inches each year. The oceans lower by gradual degrees. Mountains are carved over thousands of winters. It is slow enough that no one moment feels dramatic. You can allow your breathing to match that slowness now. Inhale gently. Exhale without effort. There is nothing you need to do with this information. Simply rest within it. The world turns to ice and light not out of anger, but through natural cycles woven into the fabric of our solar system. Cold spreads, landscapes shift, and life adjusts with quiet resilience. Beneath thick ice, rock endures. Across open plains, grasses bend but do not vanish. Under wide skies, animals and humans alike find ways to continue. And as this frozen chapter settles into place, the ice itself becomes more than a surface. It becomes a moving force, a slow river of frozen water that creeps across valleys and plains. In the stillness of the Ice Age, these glaciers breathe and flow, shaping the ground beneath them in ways we are only beginning to understand. And in the next part of our journey, we will move closer to those great rivers of ice, listening to the quiet rhythm of their slow and steady motion. If you stand at the edge of a glacier, truly stand there in your imagination, you might first notice the stillness. A vast field of white and blue stretches outward, quiet beneath a pale sky. It appears unmoving, solid, eternal. And yet, beneath that calm surface, the glacier is alive with motion. Not quick motion, not restless motion, but a steady, patient flow. It moves the way honey moves when poured slowly from a jar, the way time moves when you are not watching the clock. A glacier begins high in places where snowfall exceeds melting. Year after year, snow gathers in mountain basins or across polar lands. Each new layer presses gently upon the one beneath it. The weight increases as snowflakes lose their delicate shapes and compress into grains, then into dense, interlocking crystals. Air pockets shrink. The white becomes tinged with blue. Eventually, the mass grows heavy enough that gravity begins to guide it downhill. You do not see this movement in a single afternoon. You would not notice it during a single season. But over years, over centuries, the ice flows outward from its source. It creeps through valleys, spreading across plains. The glacier is not rigid like stone. It behaves more like a very slow river, bending and adjusting around obstacles, responding to the contours of the land beneath it. As it moves, it reshapes the world in subtle but lasting ways. Rocks frozen into the base of the glacier act like gentle chisels. They scrape along the ground, smoothing rough surfaces and carving grooves into bedrock. Valleys that were once narrow and V-shaped from running water become wider and U-shaped, sculpted by the weight and breadth of ice. The landscape softens under this steady pressure. You can imagine the sound, though it is faint and infrequent. A distant crack as ice shifts, a low groan as internal stresses release. But most of the time, there is only quiet. The glacier advances in silence, its progress measured not in heartbeats, but in generations. Sometimes, as climate cools, glaciers grow thicker and longer. Snowfall continues to outpace melting. The ice sheet expands its reach. It presses into new territory, covering forests, fields, and hills. But when temperatures rise, even slightly, melting begins at the surface and edges. Streams of meltwater trickle downward and carving channels across the ice before disappearing beneath it. The glacier responds to warmth by thinning and retreating. This advance and retreat is not random. It follows the rhythms of climate. When Earth's orbit shifts, when sunlight patterns change, glaciers respond. They are sensitive record keepers of temperature and precipitation. In their growth and withdrawal, They reveal the breathing pattern of the planet itself. At the base of a glacier, pressure builds from the immense weight above. Ice in contact with the ground can melt slightly under that pressure, creating a thin layer of water that helps the glacier slide forward. It is a quiet, hidden lubrication, allowing thousands of tons of ice to glide slowly over rock. Beneath the surface, stones are carried along like passengers in a frozen current. These stones travel far from their original homes. A boulder that once rested in a mountain range may be transported many miles before the glacier finally melts and leaves it behind. When the ice retreats, it deposits this rocky cargo across the land. Geologists later find these misplaced stones and recognize the silent journey they have taken. As glaciers carve valleys, they also deepen basins that later fill with water. Many of the lakes you see in formerly glaciated regions owe their existence to this slow sculpting. The glacier passes through, reshaping the terrain, and when it melts away, water gathers in the hollows left behind. Clear, cold lakes become reminders of ancient ice. There is something profoundly steady in this process. The glacier does not rush to complete its work. It has no deadline. It responds only to gravity and temperature, to snowfall and sunlight. In this way, it mirrors a kind of patience that feels almost comforting. There is nothing frantic in its movement. You can allow your own breathing to slow here. Inhale gently, imagining cool air filling your lungs. Exhale softly, as if releasing warmth into the night. The glacier inhales winter snowfall and exhales summer meltwater. It thickens, then thins. It advances, then retreats. Over thousands of years, this pattern repeats. Meltwater from glaciers plays its own quiet role. As ice warms at the surface, rivulets form and merge into streams. These streams can plunge into crevasses, traveling deep within the glacier before emerging at its base. There, they flow outward as cold rivers, carrying finely ground sediment that gives the water a milky hue. These rivers shape plains and nourish ecosystems downstream. Even when glaciers appear static, their surfaces are alive with subtle change. Crevasses open where the ice stretches over uneven terrain. Snow falls and fills them again. Wind sculpts ripples across exposed ice. Sunlight reflects brightly, sending shimmering light into the sky. The glacier becomes both a mirror and a memory of climate. Over long periods of warming, glaciers retreat significantly. Their edges pull back, revealing land that has not seen sunlight in thousands of years. Plants begin to colonize this freshly exposed ground. Mosses and hardy grasses take root. Slowly, life follows the ice, adapting to newly available space. Yet the story is never one of finality. Even in warmer intervals, ice persists in high mountains and polar regions. It waits, is sensitive to future shifts in climate. Should colder conditions return, snowfall may once again exceed melting, and glaciers will begin to advance. There is no need to keep track of each detail. You can simply rest in the image of a vast, slow river of ice flowing through time. Its movement is measured in centuries. Its breath is measured in millennia. It reshapes continents without raising its voice. And as you picture this immense glacier gliding quietly across valleys and plains, carrying stones, carving lakes, responding to sunlight and shadow, you may begin to wonder about the landscapes that form beyond its reach. The wide grasslands and open tundra that stretch between these rivers of ice, where life gathers and adapts beneath cold, spacious skies. Between the vast rivers of ice, where glaciers pause and the land lies open beneath the cold sky, there stretches a different kind of world. Not white and blinding, not buried under endless snow, but wide and windswept. You stand there now in your imagination, beneath a pale sun that hovers low above the horizon. The air is crisp, cool against your skin, yet the ground before you is not empty. It is covered in grasses, resilient, golden, bending gently in the steady breath of the wind. This is the mammoth steppe, one of the most expansive ecosystems of the Ice Age. It spans enormous regions across northern continents, forming a broad belt of life between towering ice sheets. Though temperatures remain low, snowfall here is often light. The air is dry, and strong winds sweep moisture away. Instead of deep snowdrifts, the land holds firm soil and hardy vegetation. You may picture frost clinging to each blade of grass in the early morning light. The sun rises slowly, casting long shadows across the plains. Even in this cold climate, the steppe thrives because grasses are well suited to such conditions. Their roots reach deep into the soil, anchoring them against wind. Many grow low to the ground, conserving heat and avoiding damage from freezing air. Their narrow leaves reduce moisture loss, helping them endure long, dry winters. Beneath the surface, life continues quietly. The soil of the mammoth steppe is rich in nutrients, built from countless seasons of plant growth and decay. Even in cold temperatures, microorganisms work slowly, breaking down organic matter. The process is not hurried, but it persists. The land stores carbon in thick layers, forming fertile ground that supports new growth each spring. In summer, though brief, sunlight stretches long across these high latitudes. Days become extended, almost unending. The grasses respond quickly, growing with surprising vigor under continuous light. Wildflowers bloom in subtle bursts of color, soft purples, gentle yellows, scattered like small secrets across the plain. The growing season is short, but it is intense, and life uses every available moment. You might notice that trees are scarce here. The cold and dryness limit their spread. Without dense forests, the horizon feels immense. The sky dominates the landscape, vast and open. This openness allows winds to move freely, preventing heavy snow from settling deeply. Instead, snow is blown thinly across the surface, exposing grasses that grazing animals can still reach during winter months. And there are many grazers. Herds of large herbivores roam these plains, sustained by the abundant grasses. You can imagine woolly mammoths moving steadily across the steppe, their thick coats swaying gently. Alongside them walk steppe bison, wild horses, musk oxen, and reindeer. Their hooves press into the frozen soil, compacting snow and uncovering vegetation beneath. In doing so, they shape the ecosystem itself. Their grazing encourages new plant growth. By feeding on grasses, they prevent shrubs and small trees from overtaking the landscape. Their movement distributes seeds across wide distances. Their presence fertilizes the soil. The mammoth steppe is not merely a backdrop for these animals. It is sustained in part by their activity. Life and land exist in quiet partnership. The cold does not silence this world. It refines it. Animals here adapt with thick fur and layers of insulating fat. Many develop compact bodies that conserve heat. Even smaller creatures, Arctic foxes, hares, burrowing rodents, find shelter beneath the snow or within underground tunnels, where temperatures remain more stable than the air above. You may feel the wind brushing past you now, steady but not harsh. It carries the scent of dry grass and distant animals. Overhead, the sky remains clear for long stretches, allowing sunlight to reflect off frost and illuminate the plains with a soft glow. Nights can be long and brilliant, filled with stars that shimmer sharply in cold air. There is resilience here, but not struggle in the dramatic sense. Instead, there is balance, and plants grow low and sturdy. Animals migrate with the seasons. Predators follow herds at a respectful distance, maintaining the rhythm of life and death without excess. Everything moves according to patterns shaped by climate and geography. During colder peaks of the Ice Age, the steppe expands as forests retreat southward. During warmer intervals, trees gradually return, changing the character of the land. Yet, for thousands of years, this grassland dominates vast territories. It becomes one of the most productive cold ecosystems Earth has ever known. Beneath your imagined feet, permafrost may lie deeper in the soil, layers of ground that remain frozen year-round. Above it, however, the top layer thaws each summer, just enough to allow roots to grow. This thin, active layer supports grasses and flowers, it creating a delicate boundary between frozen earth and living surface. You do not need to hold all of these details in your mind. Let them settle gently. The important thing is the image of abundance within cold. A frozen land that still nourishes. A pale horizon that still hums with quiet life. Early humans walk these plains as well. They follow migrating herds, learning the contours of the land. They understand where grasses grow thickest, where rivers cut through valleys, where shelter can be found against wind. The openness of the steppe offers visibility and opportunity. It is a landscape that demands awareness, yet provides sustenance. As you continue standing within this scene, notice how spacious it feels. No towering trees block your view. No mountains rise abruptly. Instead, the land rolls gently outward, untouched by frost but alive with subtle movement. The grasses bend and rise again. Herds drift across the horizon like slow-moving clouds. There is nothing you need to analyze here. Simply breathe. The mammoth steppe shows that life does not vanish when temperatures drop. It reorganizes. It adapts. It finds equilibrium within constraint. And among these golden grasses beneath pale skies, massive shapes begin to emerge more clearly, towering figures moving with steady calm across the plain. Their curved tusks catch the light. Their heavy footsteps leave impressions in frost. In this nourishing cold world, the giants of the Ice Age begin their slow and gentle procession across the land. Out on the wide grasslands beneath the pale Ice Age sky, movement appears first as a distant ripple, a dark line against the frost-touched horizon. As you watch more closely, the shapes become clearer, massive, rounded forms swaying gently as they walk. These are the giants of the Ice Age, moving with calm assurance across the open steppe. You can imagine standing quietly as a herd approaches. The ground feels firm beneath your feet, dusted with snow that crunches softly. The air is cold but still. Ahead of you, woolly mammoths advance in unhurried rhythm, their thick coats stirring in the wind. They are enormous, yet their pace is steady and measured, each foot placed carefully upon the earth. Their long fur is not decorative but essential. It hangs in layered strands, protecting them from biting winds. Beneath that coat lies dense underwool, and beneath that, a thick layer of fat that insulates their bodies against prolonged cold. Even their ears are smaller than those of their distant elephant relatives in warmer climates, reducing heat loss in freezing air. Every part of their form reflects adaptation, shaped by countless generations living in low temperatures. Their curved tusks arc outward and upward, sweeping in wide crescents. These tusks are not merely ornaments, they are tools for survival. With them, mammoths brush aside snow to uncover grasses buried beneath. They strip bark from hardy shrubs. They defend themselves when necessary, though conflict is not their constant state. Most of their time is spent grazing, traveling, and caring for their young. Mastodons move in different regions, often in areas where scattered woodlands persist. They share similarities with mammoths, but differ in subtle ways. Their teeth are suited for browsing on branches and leaves rather than grazing primarily on grasses. Their presence shows how varied Ice Age ecosystems can be, from open plains to lightly forested patches where trees withstand the chill. These giants do not roam alone. They travel in herds, structured around family groups. Females and their calves remain close together, guided by older individuals who carry knowledge of seasonal routes. Males sometimes wander separately, but the herd itself moves like a living memory, tracing pathways across the land that have been followed for generations. You can picture their migration unfolding slowly across the steppe. In winter, they seek areas where wind has swept snow thin, exposing vegetation beneath. In summer, they travel toward regions where fresh grasses sprout under long daylight. Their movement is not random. It follows patterns shaped by climate and landscape. With each step, these large herbivores influence their environment. As they graze, they prevent shrubs from overtaking grasslands. Their trampling compacts snow, allowing smaller animals to move more easily. Their droppings return nutrients to the soil, enriching it for future plant growth. In this way, their presence helps maintain the very steppe that sustains them. Other large herbivores share this world. Steppe bison with heavy shoulders and thick fur graze in nearby herds. Wild horses, sturdy and compact, move in agile bands across the plains. Musk oxen gather tightly during storms, forming protective circles against wind. Each species carries its own adaptations: layered fur, insulating fat, efficient digestion of coarse grasses, all tuned to the demands of cold climates. The giants move through soft snow with surprising grace. Their broad feet distribute weight across a larger surface, preventing them from sinking deeply. Even in winter, when temperatures fall far below freezing, their internal warmth is preserved by insulation and constant feeding. Eating is not simply nourishment, it is fuel for heat. You may notice how calm this scene feels. Despite their immense size, these animals are not hurried. They are not aggressive by nature. They follow ancient rhythms of growth and migration. Calves stay close to their mothers, learning routes and grazing grounds. Communication passes through low rumbles and subtle gestures, vibrations that travel through ground and air. The Ice Age steppe, and is shaped by glaciers and climate cycles, finds balance in these great herbivores. Without them, grasses might grow differently. Shrubs could expand unchecked. Their grazing patterns create a mosaic of vegetation heights, supporting diverse plant life. Even predators depend on them indirectly, as the abundance of large herbivores sustains the entire food web. When you watch a mammoth herd move across the plain in your imagination, you may feel the weight of deep time in each step. These animals have ancestors stretching back long before the Ice Age began. Over millennia, their forms change subtly, responding to colder conditions. Natural selection favors thicker fur, compact bodies, efficient digestion. Evolution proceeds slowly, as quietly as the glaciers that frame their world. You do not need to remember the scientific details. You simply notice the feeling of scale. Massive creatures walking without haste, breath rising in faint clouds against cold air, tusks glinting under subdued sunlight, snow shifting gently beneath wide feet. Their lives are not without challenges. Seasons grow harsh, resources fluctuate, yet the herd persists, guided by instinct and learned experience. The Ice Age is not an empty void, but a living landscape shaped by these giants as much as by ice. As you breathe slowly now, imagine standing at a respectful distance, watching the herd pass. You feel small beside them, yet not threatened. They move with awareness, but without alarm. The earth seems to pulse gently beneath their weight, and somewhere beyond the horizon, following at a careful distance, other figures begin to appear. Leaner shapes, keen-eyed and patient, drawn by the same rhythm of survival that guides these giants. In the quiet balance of the steppe, grazers and hunters share the same cold light, and soon we will turn our attention toward those silent predators of the pale horizon. Beyond the slow-moving herds, beyond the steady rhythm of grazing giants, another presence moves across the Ice Age plains. It does not announce itself loudly. It waits. It watches. Along the pale horizon, lean shapes drift between patches of frost and grass, their bodies designed not for wandering, but for pursuit. You can imagine the light of early morning stretching low across the steppe. The air is thin and cold, and sound carries clearly. In the distance, a small group of saber-toothed cats moves with quiet precision. Their bodies are muscular yet compact, built for strength rather than endless speed. Thick fur insulates them from the chill, just as it does for the herbivores they follow. The most striking feature of these cats is their elongated canine teeth, curved like delicate crescents. These teeth are not simply dramatic ornaments. They are tools shaped by evolution, suited for delivering deep, targeted bites. Their jaws open wider than those of modern big cats, allowing those teeth to do their work efficiently. Yet, despite this formidable appearance, their survival depends not on ferocity alone, but on careful strategy. Saber-toothed cats likely hunt with patience. They may stalk through tall grasses or use natural contours of land for concealment. Their powerful forelimbs help them grapple with large prey, bringing down animals much bigger than themselves. Strength and surprise work together in a brief, decisive moment. Afterward, the plains grow quiet once more. Nearby, packs of dire wolves move with coordinated grace. Slightly larger and more robust than many modern wolves, they are adapted to the demands of colder climates. Their thick coats shield them from wind, and their endurance allows them to travel long distances in search of food. Unlike solitary hunters, they rely on cooperation. Communication within the pack is subtle. A glance, a posture, a low sound carried on the air. You may picture them trotting across the steppe in a loose formation, scanning the horizon for opportunity. Their hunting style differs from that of the saber-toothed cats. Where the cat may depend on ambush and power, the wolves rely on stamina and teamwork. They pursue, pressure, and gradually exhaust their chosen prey. The strategy is not reckless. It is calculated, They're refined by countless generations, learning what works in open terrain. Cave lions also roam parts of this Ice Age world. Larger than many modern lions, they carry strong limbs and dense fur suited for cooler temperatures. Unlike the lions of warm savannas, these predators navigate grasslands and lightly wooded areas shaped by glacial climates. They too balance stealth with strength, choosing moments carefully. As you consider these hunters, notice how their existence does not disturb the calm of this landscape. Predation is not chaos. It is part of the system that maintains equilibrium. Herbivore populations, if left unchecked, could overgraze the steppe. Predators ensure that herds remain healthy and balanced. The relationship is ancient and interwoven. Cold climates demand efficiency. Energy is precious. A predator cannot afford to waste effort on unnecessary chases. Each hunt is a measured decision, influenced by weather, terrain, and the condition of both hunter and prey. Thick fur, compact bodies, and keen senses all reflect adaptation to the same environmental pressures shaping the herbivores. Even smaller predators contribute to this balance. Arctic foxes slip quietly through snow, their white coats blending seamlessly with winter landscapes. They listen for the faint sounds of rodents beneath the surface. With a precise leap, they break through the snow crust to catch hidden prey. In warmer months, their coats shift in color, adjusting to changing surroundings. The Ice Age steppe is not a battlefield. It is a network of relationships. Predators follow herds not out of cruelty, but necessity. They select individuals that are young, old, or weakened, often strengthening the overall herd by removing the most vulnerable. This dynamic maintains resilience within populations over time. You might feel a gentle awareness of this balance as you breathe slowly now. There is nothing frantic here. The hunts are brief compared to the long stretches of grazing and migration. Much of a predator's life is spent resting, conserving energy beneath the open sky. Cubs play near their mothers. Wolves groom one another within the safety of their pack. Life continues in cycles of tension and release. The pale horizon remains vast. Under the soft light of Ice Age suns, these hunters leave subtle tracks in frost and dust. Wind soon blurs those impressions. Snow covers them gently. Evidence of pursuit fades quickly, yet the system endures. Over time, as climates shift and glaciers advance or retreat, predator ranges expand or contract. They follow the distribution of prey, adapting their movements to changes in vegetation and temperature. Evolution shapes their forms gradually, just as it shapes the giants they pursue. You do not need to hold onto the image of sharp teeth or powerful limbs. Instead, focus on the rhythm. Grazer and hunter, movement and stillness, tension and calm. Each role exists because the other does. Each life is connected to the landscape sculpted by ice and wind. As night falls across the steppe, stars emerge above a world that feels immense and quiet. Predators settle into sheltered areas, conserving warmth. Herds cluster together for safety. The wind carries distant sounds that blend into the background hum of the plains. And beneath this wide sky, smaller lives continue their quiet routines beneath snow and grass, unseen by both giant and hunter. Lives that burrow and flutter and adapt in their own gentle ways, waiting for us to notice the delicate creatures thriving quietly beneath the frost. When you picture the Ice Age, it is easy to see only the giants, the mammoths crossing open plains, the predators tracing their shadows. But beneath those grand movements, closer to the ground, quieter and almost hidden, smaller lives continue their own steady rhythms. If you lower your gaze to the snow-dusted earth, you begin to notice the delicate patterns of tiny tracks, the faint impressions of paws and claws that crisscross the surface like quiet signatures. Snow, which seems at first like a barrier, is also a shelter. Fresh snow traps pockets of air between its crystals, creating insulation against the sharper cold above. Just beneath the surface, temperatures remain more stable than the open air. In this soft boundary between sky and soil, a hidden world forms, a narrow space where small creatures move and survive. You can imagine crouching gently and brushing aside a thin layer of snow. Beneath it lies a delicate network of tunnels pressed into the powder by voles and lemmings. These small rodents spent much of winter in this sheltered layer, feeding on grasses and seeds stored beneath the snow. Their bodies are compact, conserving heat. Their fur grows thicker as days shorten, responding to changing light. The Arctic hare moves across the surface more boldly. In winter, its coat turns white, blending seamlessly into the frozen landscape. This color change is not magic, but biology. As daylight decreases, hormonal signals trigger the growth of pale fur, offering camouflage against predators. In summer, when snow retreats, the hare's coat shifts to browns and grays, matching thawed earth and grasses. The Arctic fox follows similar rhythms. Its winter coat grows dense and white, insulating it against extreme cold and helping it disappear into snowy surroundings. In warmer months, the fur becomes thinner and darker. This seasonal transformation allows the fox to adapt not only to temperature, but to the colors of its world. You may notice how these changes reflect sensitivity to light and season. The length of day quietly guides physiology. Bodies respond to environmental cues with precision shaped by generations of survival. Nothing here is hurried, and the process unfolds gradually as autumn deepens into winter and winter softens towards spring. Burrowing offers another layer of protection. Beneath the frozen surface, soil temperatures remain more constant. Small mammals dig networks of tunnels that shelter them from wind and extreme cold. In these underground chambers, families cluster together, sharing warmth. Stored food provides sustenance when surface vegetation becomes scarce. Birds, too, find ways to endure. Some species remain year-round, fluffing their feathers to trap insulating air close to their bodies. They seek sheltered branches or rocky crevices during storms. Others migrate, traveling remarkable distances to follow milder climates. Their journeys are guided by subtle cues, changes in daylight, shifts in temperature, internal biological clocks. You can imagine a small flock lifting into the pale sky, wings beating steadily as they move southward. Migration is not a frantic escape, but a practiced route repeated across generations. The path is remembered not in maps, but in instinct and inherited memory. Even insects persist in quiet ways. Some species lay eggs that withstand freezing temperatures, waiting patiently for warmth to return. Others burrow into soil or tree bark, entering states of dormancy where metabolism slows dramatically. Life does not vanish with cold. It pauses, conserving energy until conditions improve. The presence of these small creatures supports the broader ecosystem. Rodents provide prey for foxes and birds of prey. Their burrowing aerates soil, mixing organic material and promoting plant growth. Even beneath snow, ecological processes continue. Energy flows through hidden channels, linking grasses to rodents, rodents to predators in delicate chains. You might feel a gentle comfort in this persistence. While glaciers move and winds sweep across open plains, these small lives endure in quiet spaces. Their scale may be modest, yet their impact is profound. Without them, larger predators would struggle. Without their foraging, certain plants might spread unchecked. As you breathe slowly, imagine the muffled quiet beneath fresh snowfall. Above, the wind whispers across the steppe. Below, a vole navigates its tunnel with practiced ease. A fox listens intently for movement beneath the crust. A hare pauses, blending into white silence before bounding onward. There is no need to focus on survival as struggle. Instead, see adaptation as harmony. Fur thickens, colors change. Our bodies grow compact, behaviors shift with season. Each response reflects the same guiding principle: to live within the rhythm of climate. During brief summers, when snow recedes and grasses flourish, these small creatures reproduce quickly. Abundant food allows populations to expand. As winter returns, numbers may decline, balanced again by predators and limited resources. The cycle continues, neither excessive nor stagnant. You can let your thoughts drift like snowflakes settling gently. There is nothing you need to solve here. Simply notice how even the smallest life finds a way. Beneath frost and ice, within tunnels and sheltered nests, the pulse of the Ice Age continues softly. And as we lift our eyes from these quiet burrows and snowy tracks, we begin to notice something else. Faint trails of smoke rising against the cold sky. Small circles of warmth in a vast white world, where another kind of creature learns to adapt, not with fur alone, but with fire and community. Across the wide and wind-brushed steppe, where mammoths drift like moving hills, and foxes leave fine signatures in the snow, another kind of presence begins to glow softly against the cold. It is not large, and it does not reshape valleys. It flickers gently in the dusk, a small circle of orange light against blue-white frost. You can imagine standing at a distance, watching smoke rise slowly into the pale sky. This is one of the first fires tended in frozen lands. Early humans live within the Ice Age, not as masters of it, but as careful participants. They do not have thick fur or heavy coats grown by nature. Instead, they shape protection with their hands and minds. Fire becomes their companion. It offers warmth against biting winds, light during long winter nights, and a place where community gathers close. Controlled fire is not new to humanity by this time, but in colder climates, it becomes essential. You can picture a small group crouched around glowing embers, feeding dry grasses and wood into the flame. The fire crackles softly, pushing back darkness and frost in equal measure. Heat radiates outward, warming skin and thawing stiff fingers. Beyond comfort, fire transforms survival. It allows meat to be cooked, making it easier to digest and safer to eat. Cooking unlocks nutrients, providing more energy from the same resources. In a cold climate where calories matter deeply, this quiet transformation becomes powerful. You do not need to memorize the science. Simply imagine how warmth and nourishment work together. Shelters rise nearby, simple but thoughtful. In some regions, humans use mammoth bones as frames, arranging curved tusks and sturdy ribs into circular structures. Over these frames, hides are stretched tightly, forming walls that block wind. In other places, caves offer natural protection, their stone interiors holding warmth once a fire has burned within. These shelters are not grand buildings. They are temporary, adaptable, moved or rebuilt as herds migrate and seasons change. Early humans follow the rhythms of the land, just as mammoths and bison do. They observe where grasses grow thickest, where rivers remain unfrozen longest, where shelter can be found against open wind. Clothing becomes another adaptation. Animal hides are scraped and softened, stitched together with bone needles and sinew thread. Fur is worn inward for warmth or outward for weather resistance, depending on need. Layers trap air close to the body, creating insulation similar to that of the animals themselves. Human survival during the Ice Age is not a story of resistance, but of careful imitation and ingenuity. You may notice how cooperative this world feels. No one individual survives alone for long in harsh climates. Food is shared. Tasks are divided. Knowledge passes from elders to children. Where to find flint for tools, how to read the movement of clouds, when to expect herds to return. Community becomes as vital as fire itself. The firelight casts shadows against hide walls. Outside, wind moves across the plains. Inside, voices murmur softly. Tools are shaped by steady hands. Stone flakes are chipped carefully to create sharp edges for cutting meat or shaping wood. Bone and antler are carved into hooks, needles, and spear points. Each tool represents accumulated experience, refined slowly over generations. You can imagine how the glow of fire changes perception of the frozen world. What once seemed vast and overwhelming now has a center, a warm point of gathering. Flames reflect in watchful eyes, sparks rise upward and disappear into darkness. The fire does not conquer winter. It coexists with it, offering a small circle of warmth within an immense landscape. Migration remains essential. As seasons shift, groups travel along established routes, following animal movements. Knowledge of geography becomes internalized. Valleys remembered, river crossings noted, distant hills recognized by shape. This memory of landscape allows humans to move with confidence rather than fear. During colder peaks, survival demands even greater awareness. Food sources may thin, weather may grow harsher, yet adaptation continues through cooperation and flexibility. Diets shift between large game, smaller animals, fish and gathered plants when available. Nothing is wasted. Bones become tools. Hides become clothing and shelter. You do not need to analyze every detail of early human life. Instead, sense the calm intelligence behind it. Fire is tended carefully, not allowed to burn out. Sparks are preserved, embers carried when groups move. Knowledge is valued quietly, shared through demonstration and story. In these frozen lands, the presence of fire alters ecosystems subtly. Small clearings appear where fuel has been gathered. The ash enriches soil in localized patches. The human footprint remains light compared to glaciers and mammoth herds, yet it is purposeful. As you breathe slowly now, imagine sitting near that ancient fire. Feel its gentle warmth against cold air. Hear the faint crackle of wood. Notice how the vast Ice Age world feels slightly less distant within this circle of light. Humans adapt not through fur or tusks, but through memory and cooperation, through the steady tending of flame, through shelters built thoughtfully against wind. Their survival is a testament to flexibility rather than dominance. And in the quiet glow of firelight, hands continue working, shaping stone and bone with careful precision, turning raw materials into tools that carry knowledge forward. preparing us to look more closely at the quiet craft that unfolds in these frozen nights. In the soft glow of firelight, when wind moves gently beyond the shelter walls and the vast Ice Age night stretches overhead, hands begin their quiet work. You can imagine sitting close enough to see the careful motions, steady fingers turning a piece of stone, studying its edges, feeling its weight. There is no rush in these movements. Each gesture is deliberate, shaped by memory and observation. Stone toolmaking is both practical and precise. A core of flint or chert is selected carefully, chosen for how it fractures. When struck at the right angle with another stone, it breaks in predictable patterns, producing sharp flakes. These flakes can become cutting tools, scrapers, or points. The skill lies not in force, but in control. A light and a practiced strike produces an edge fine enough to slice through hide or shape wood. You can hear the faint tap of stone against stone, rhythmic and patient. Sparks may flicker briefly. A flake falls away, revealing a sharp surface beneath. Over time, the tool takes shape, refined by subtle adjustments. Edges are retouched with smaller strikes, smoothing imperfections and strengthening the form. Bone and antler offer different possibilities. When mammoths or bison fall, their remains provide materials beyond food and clothing. Strong leg bones become raw material for needles or awls. Antlers, tough yet workable, are carved into spear points or handles. These materials require different techniques. Instead of striking, they are often shaped through scraping and grinding. You may picture someone seated near the entrance of a shelter, a daylight filtering in, carefully drilling a small hole through bone to create an eye for a needle. With such needles, hides can be stitched tightly together. Sewing becomes a vital craft, allowing garments to fit closely and trap warmth efficiently. In a climate where heat retention matters deeply, well-constructed clothing can mean comfort and survival. Spears are shaped with thoughtful precision. A wooden shaft is straightened over gentle heat, then fitted with a carefully crafted stone or bone point. The point is secured using sinew, which tightens as it dries, binding materials firmly together. This combination of wood, stone, and animal fiber reflects an understanding of how different materials behave. Knowledge of these techniques does not appear suddenly. It develops gradually across generations. Children observe elders, watching the angle of each strike, the way fingers test sharpness. Skills are learned through repetition, corrected through guidance, refined through experience. There is no written manual, only shared practice and quiet demonstration. You might notice how peaceful this scene feels. Even in a world shaped by glaciers and cold winds, moments of careful craftsmanship unfold with calm focus. Firelight illuminates concentration. Tools are not produced in frenzy, but in measured rhythm. These tools extend human capability gently. A sharper blade allows more efficient butchering of game. A well-constructed spear increases the chance of a successful hunt. A finely sewn garment protects against frost. Craft becomes an extension of adaptation, complementing fire and shelter. Over time, tool styles change subtly. New shapes emerge that reflect improved understanding. Points become more aerodynamic. Scrapers fit more comfortably in the hand. Variation appears across regions, influenced by available materials and local traditions. Each group develops techniques suited to its landscape. You can imagine a finished tool being passed from one person to another. Fingers trace its edges, feeling the smoothness where rough stone once was. There is pride here, but it is quiet pride. The object is valued not for decoration, but for usefulness. Beyond tools for survival, smaller objects sometimes appear. Beads carved from bone, simple pendants shaped from ivory. These items may carry meaning beyond function. They suggest that even in frozen lands, creativity finds space. Craft becomes not only practical, but expressive. Grinding stones smooth surfaces over long hours. Polishing refines points. Patience is embedded in each artifact. Nothing is hurried. Time itself feels like a material, shaping skill through repetition. You do not need to memorize the steps of tool-making. Simply sense the continuity, hands working steadily, knowledge moving from one generation to the next, firelight reflecting on stone edges. Outside, wind sweeps across the steppe, but inside there is focus and warmth. As you breathe slowly now, imagine holding one of these ancient tools. Feel its weight, balanced and purposeful. Consider how many careful strikes shaped its edge, how many lessons were quietly shared before it reached this form. Craftsmanship becomes a thread connecting past and future. Each tool carries accumulated understanding, refined across countless seasons. In frozen landscapes, skill becomes as important as strength. And as these hands continue shaping stone and bone beneath steady light, you may begin to wonder what images those same hands might leave upon cave walls, what stories might glow in pigments against rock, waiting in the darkness beyond firelight, ready to be discovered. Beyond the open steppe and the quiet glow of firelit shelters, there are deeper spaces carved by time itself. Caves open along limestone hillsides, their entrances dark and cool even in summer. If you imagine stepping inside, the air shifts immediately. It becomes still, slightly damp, carrying the faint scent of stone and earth. Your footsteps echo softly as light from a small flame flickers against uneven walls. Within these caves, something extraordinary begins to appear. Along smooth rock surfaces, unique shapes emerge in mineral reds, deep browns, and charcoal black. They are not random marks. They are deliberate, careful renderings of animals that roam the Ice Age world outside. You can picture a torch held close to the wall, its flame dancing gently. Shadows ripple over painted forms, making them seem almost alive. A bison appears mid-stride. A horse lowers its head as if grazing. A mammoth curves its tusks against the stone. The artists use the natural contours of the cave wall to give depth to bodies and movement to limbs. The pigments themselves come from the land. Red and yellow hues are derived from iron-rich minerals ground into fine powder. Charcoal from burned wood provides deep blacks. These powders are mixed with water, animal fat, or saliva to create paint. The process is simple in materials, yet careful in execution. You may imagine hands pressing against the wall, leaving negative handprints formed by blowing pigment around fingers. These impressions feel intimate and direct, a quiet signature across thousands of years. They remind you that behind every painted animal stands a person breathing in cold air, concentrating in the glow of firelight. The paintings are often found deep within caves, far from natural light. Reaching these chambers requires intention. It suggests that these spaces hold meaning beyond simple decoration. Perhaps they are gathering places for ritual, storytelling, or shared memory. The exact purpose remains uncertain, but the effort involved speaks to importance. Animals dominate the imagery. herd animals, powerful predators, creatures central to survival and imagination. Their forms are observed carefully. Muscles are indicated with subtle shading. Proportions reflect familiarity with living bodies. These are not abstract shapes. They are informed by close attention to the natural world. You might notice that humans are rarely depicted in the same way. When they appear, they are often stylized or partial. This imbalance suggests that animals occupy a central role in thought and daily life. The Ice Age world is one where humans and animals share the same vast landscapes, their fates intertwined. Light plays a quiet role in these paintings. The flicker of flame animates figures on the wall. Shadows shift across curves of rock, creating the illusion of motion. In darkness, the cave becomes a kind of living gallery where art interacts with environment. You can imagine a small group gathered in one of these chambers. The firelight glows warmly. Voices murmur softly. A story may be told about a successful hunt or about the behavior of herds in winter. The painted animals become part of collective memory, reinforcing knowledge and shared experience. Scientific study reveals that some caves were used repeatedly over generations. New paintings layer over older ones. Styles evolve subtly. Techniques become more refined. This continuity suggests that artistic knowledge is passed down much like tool-making skills. Practice improves with time. There is no need to assign fixed meaning to these images. Theories range from spiritual symbolism to teaching tools, from expressions of identity to early forms of communication. Perhaps they are all of these at once. What remains certain is that creativity flourishes even in cold, demanding climates. As you breathe slowly now, imagine tracing the outline of a painted horse with your eyes. Notice how the curve of the rock becomes the curve of its back. See how a simple line suggests motion. Feel how quiet and focused the artist must have been, working by torchlight in deep silence. Art does not provide warmth like fire, nor cut like stone tools, yet it fulfills another human need. It preserves observation, it expresses thought, it connects individuals across time. In the Ice Age, creativity glows just as steadily as flame. Mineral pigments endure for thousands of years because caves protect them from weather. When modern researchers enter these chambers, they do so carefully, aware that they are stepping into spaces shaped long ago. The paintings become windows into ancient minds. There is something calming in knowing that even in frozen landscapes, humans pause to create. Between migrations and hunts, between shaping tools and tending fires, they turn toward beauty and meaning. They leave images that outlast glaciers. You do not need to analyze every possibility. Simply rest in the image of a dark cave illuminated by gentle light. Animals emerging from stone as if from memory itself. Listen to the faint crackle of a torch. Feel the stillness of earth surrounding you. And as you step back toward the cave entrance, where cold air meets firelight, you may begin to sense how rivers, coastlines, and even entire continents are shifting quietly beyond these hills. Pathways opening and closing across the Ice Age world, inviting life to travel farther than ever before. As the great ice sheets thicken and spread across continents, they quietly gather something immense within them. Water. Vast amounts of it, once moving freely through oceans and clouds, now rest locked inside frozen layers that glisten beneath pale skies. And as this water is held in ice, the oceans themselves begin to change. You can imagine standing on a coastline during the Ice Age, though it may not resemble the shores you know today. The sea lies farther away. Where waves once rolled, there now stretches a wide plain of exposed land. The air carries the same salt-scented whisper, yet the horizon feels altered, distant. When glaciers expand, sea levels fall because so much water is stored as ice. The drop is not sudden, but steady, unfolding over thousands of years. Shorelines retreat outward. Continental shelves, once submerged, rise into open air. River mouths extend across newly revealed ground, carving fresh paths toward a sea that now rests farther from land. The map of Earth, though invisible to those living within it, shifts quietly. In the northern reaches between Asia and North America, a vast stretch of land emerges where ocean once flowed. This region, known today as the Bering Land Bridge, becomes a corridor of grass and tundra connecting two continents. It is not a narrow strip, but a broad expanse supporting plants and animals across its width. You may picture herds of mammoths, bison, and wild horses wandering across this open plain, unaware that beneath their hooves lies what will one day be ocean floor. The climate here remains cold but dry, similar to the mammoth steppe. Grasses grow, winds sweep across, and life moves freely between lands that are now separated by water. Early humans, following the rhythms of herds, gradually cross this land bridge as well. There is no grand announcement of migration, no sense of crossing between worlds. It is simply a continuation of movement across familiar terrain. Generations travel eastward, adapting to new valleys, new rivers, new skies. Elsewhere, coastlines across the globe transform. In some regions, coral reefs are left high and dry. In others, new estuaries form as rivers carve through exposed sediments. Islands that once stood isolated become connected by land. The boundaries between continents soften and blur. You can imagine walking along one of these expanded coastlines, where gentle slopes descend toward a distant sea. Perhaps you notice shells embedded in soil far from water's edge, remnants of a time when tides reached this place. The land holds memory of shifting oceans. Ice shelves extend from continental glaciers into colder seas, forming vast floating platforms of ice. These shelves reflect sunlight back into the atmosphere, reinforcing cooler temperatures. They carve occasionally, releasing icebergs that drift slowly across the ocean's surface. Yet even this movement feels unhurried, part of a larger rhythm. Ocean currents respond subtly to these changes. With lower sea levels and altered coastlines, the pathways of water shift. Temperature differences between equator and poles influence circulation patterns. The oceans breathe differently during glacial periods, redistributing heat in new ways. You do not need to trace every current or memorize each shift. Instead, notice the theme. Nothing on Earth remains fixed for long. Ice grows, oceans recede, land emerges. The planet redraws itself in slow motion. Rivers flowing from melting glaciers carry fine sediments ground from rock. These sediments deposit across plains and into seas, altering coastlines further. Delta regions expand and contract depending on water flow and sea level. Landscapes remain dynamic even when temperatures are low. For those living within this world, adaptation continues quietly. Coastal communities follow shifting shorelines. Animals adjust migration routes. Plants colonize newly exposed ground. The land bridge between continents becomes not just a geological feature, but a living pathway. You might feel a gentle awe imagining how entire populations move across such spaces without knowing they are crossing between continents. The Earth does not mark these boundaries with signs or lines. It offers terrain, and life responds. As climates warm again, glaciers begin to retreat. Ice melts gradually, returning water to the oceans. Sea levels rise once more, covering the land bridge beneath waves. Pathways that were once open close gently, separating continents again. The map shifts back, though never exactly as before. Standing in this imagined Ice Age landscape, you sense both stability and change. Mountains endure, yet coastlines wander. Oceans shrink, then swell. The planet's surface remains in quiet conversation with climate. There is something deeply calming in this scale of transformation. It unfolds beyond any single lifetime, beyond even many generations. You can rest within that slowness. There is nothing you need to manage or influence here. Simply observe how Earth reshapes itself with patience. As you breathe softly now, imagine tracing the outline of continents with your finger across a map, watching shorelines expand and contract like the tide itself. Frozen rivers descend from glaciers. Hidden oceans wait beneath future waves. Migration routes open and close without urgency. And beneath these shifting coasts and emerging plains, another quiet archive forms in frozen ground itself. Layers of permafrost holding ancient pollen, preserved footprints, and the memory of climates long past, inviting us to look deeper into the Earth's quiet storage of time. Beneath the wide tundra and the windswept grasses, below the places where mammoths once wandered and foxes traced delicate paths across the snow, the ground itself holds a quiet secret. It does not shift like glaciers. It does not glow like firelight. It simply remains cold, steady, and deeply patient. This is permafrost, the frozen ground that remembers. You can imagine kneeling and pressing your hand against the earth in a high northern landscape. The surface may soften briefly during summer, thawing just enough for grasses and flowers to grow. But below that thin layer lies soil that does not melt. Year after year, season after season, it remains frozen. Not for a single winter, but for centuries, sometimes for thousands of years. Permafrost forms in regions where temperatures stay low enough that the ground never fully thaws. Snow may come and go, rivers may freeze and flow again. But beneath it all, ice crystals bind soil and sediment together. It becomes a kind of natural archive, preserving whatever rests within it. In this frozen layer, plant roots, seeds, and even animal remains can endure far beyond what would be possible in warmer climates. Without warmth, decay slows dramatically. Microorganisms that normally break down organic material remain inactive or move at a glacial pace. Time feels suspended in these cold depths. You might picture a mammoth that once roamed the steppe, eventually lying down and never rising again. If its body becomes quickly covered by sediment and frozen into permafrost, it may remain astonishingly intact. Thousands of years later, melting ice can reveal fur, skin, and even traces of the animal's final meal preserved within its stomach. These discoveries are not dramatic interruptions, but quiet unveilings. A thawing riverbank exposes a curved tusk. A storm shifts soil to reveal ancient bone. Scientists approach carefully, aware that they are touching a life that existed in a world shaped by ice. Permafrost does not preserve only large creatures. Tiny grains of pollen become trapped within frozen soil, each grain a microscopic record of the plants that once grew above. By studying these preserved pollens, researchers can reconstruct past climates and vegetation. They can see when grasses dominated, when shrubs expanded, when temperatures warmed slightly. You do not need to understand every scientific method. Simply imagine layers beneath your feet like pages in a book. Each layer contains information about temperature, moisture, and life. The deeper you go, the further back in time you travel. Ice itself contributes to this memory. Within ancient ice, tiny bubbles of air become sealed as snow compresses into glacier. These bubbles preserve samples of the atmosphere from long ago. When scientists drill into deep ice cores, they release air that last touched sunlight tens of thousands of years earlier. The air carries subtle clues about carbon dioxide levels and global temperatures. There is something profoundly calming in this idea, that the Earth keeps records without ink or paper. That cold can protect memory with quiet efficiency. The ground becomes a vault, storing stories in layers of frost. Yet permafrost is not entirely static. During brief summers, the uppermost layer softens, forming what is known as the active layer. Plants send roots into this thawed soil. Microbes awaken briefly to process organic matter. Then winter returns and the surface freezes again. The cycle repeats while the deeper ground remains solid. In some regions, ice within permafrost forms intricate patterns. Wedges of ice expand and contract with temperature changes, creating polygon shapes visible from above. These patterns resemble gentle mosaics across tundra landscapes. Even frozen ground carries subtle artistry shaped by physics and time. As climates warm at the end of glacial periods, permafrost begins to thaw more deeply. Organic material long locked in ice becomes exposed to air and microbes. Decomposition resumes, releasing stored carbon into the atmosphere. The frozen archive shifts from preservation to participation in global cycles once more. You can imagine standing in a quiet Arctic valley where melting ground reveals dark soil beneath pale frost. Small streams trickle across thawing terrain. Plants begin to colonize exposed earth. The past and present mingle gently at the boundary between ice and air. There is no urgency here, just gradual transformation. Permafrost teaches patience. It shows how the earth can hold memory without haste, revealing it only when conditions change. As you breathe softly now, imagine the stillness beneath the surface. Beneath your thoughts, beneath the room around you, layers of time resting quietly. Seeds waiting, pollen grains suspended, fur preserved in cold silence. The Ice Age leaves not only landscapes and fossils, but frozen chapters stored in soil. When the ground thaws, it speaks softly of climates long gone and ecosystems reshaped by shifting ice. And as these layers begin to warm and retreat, the world above them changes once more. Winds alter their paths, temperatures shift, and the long thaw gathers momentum, guiding us toward a landscape slowly releasing itself from the grip of ancient frost. If you stand again upon the wide Ice Age steppe, you may begin to notice something that has always been there, moving gently but persistently through every scene. The wind. It brushes across grasses, curls around mammoth fir, slips through the entrances of bone-built shelters, and glides over the frozen surfaces of distant glaciers. It is invisible, yet it shapes nearly everything. The climate of the Ice Age is not defined by cold alone. It is defined by circulation, by the way air moves across the planet. When vast ice sheets spread over northern continents, they alter temperature patterns between equator and pole. Cold air pools heavily over glaciated regions, while warmer air remains closer to the equator. This contrast strengthens winds, guiding them into steady pathways. You can imagine high above the earth, currents of air flowing like invisible rivers. In glacial periods, these jet streams shift slightly southward, influenced by the massive presence of ice. Storm tracks follow new routes. Regions that were once moist may become drier. Others may receive more snowfall than before. On the open steppe, the air often feels dry. With so much water locked in ice sheets, evaporation from oceans decreases. Precipitation patterns shift. Snow may fall lightly and be carried away by wind before it accumulates deeply. Instead of thick blankets of snow, you see ripples of frost tracing the land. These winds lift fine particles of dust from exposed soils and carry them across great distances. During colder, drier phases, dust storms sweep gently over plains, not violent, but persistent. You might picture a faint haze in the air, softening the horizon. This dust settles onto glaciers, darkening their surfaces slightly and influencing how they absorb sunlight. Even the smallest grains play a role. When dust settles on snow and ice, it reduces reflectivity, allowing more solar warmth to be absorbed. In subtle ways, wind contributes to the rhythm of advance and retreat in ice sheets. The atmosphere and glaciers exist in constant conversation. In high latitudes, seasonal changes in light shape atmospheric movement as well. During winter months, darkness stretches long across polar regions. The absence of sunlight allows air to cool intensely. Cold, dense air sinks and spreads outward, strengthening surface winds. In summer, extended daylight warms the surface slightly, shifting circulation once more. You can feel this cycle if you imagine standing there across seasons. In winter, the sky appears steel grey, wind steady and purposeful. In summer, though still cool, sunlight lingers near the horizon, casting long golden beams across open plains. The wind softens slightly, carrying the scent of thawing soil. Ocean currents also respond to these atmospheric patterns. As winds push against sea surfaces, they influence the movement of water. In glacial times, with lower sea levels and altered coastlines, circulation pathways shift. Cold water masses expand in some regions, reinforcing cooler global temperatures. Nothing operates in isolation. The atmosphere, oceans, and ice sheets move together in quiet synchrony. Small changes in sunlight due to orbital cycles set larger systems in motion. Feedback loops amplify or soften these effects. It is a delicate balance maintained over thousands of years. You do not need to trace every current or pressure system. Instead, imagine the Earth breathing through wind. Inhale, exhale. Cool air flows southward. Warmer air moves northward. Storms gather gently along shifting fronts. The planet's climate pulses with steady rhythm. Dust carried across continents eventually settles into layers within ice cores and ocean sediments. Scientists later examine these layers to understand wind strength and aridity during the Ice Age. The very air that once brushed mammoth fur leaves subtle signatures for future generations to read. As you breathe softly now, imagine the wind across your face. Not harsh, but constant. It shapes dunes, sculpts snow into delicate ridges, and carries seeds to new ground. Even in frozen landscapes, movement never fully stops. At times, winds sweep across exposed continental shelves where oceans have retreated. These temporary plains experience their own climate patterns, influenced by nearby ice sheets and open water. The boundaries between land and sea shift, and the air adapts accordingly. Long nights in polar regions create deep seasonal contrasts. In darkness, temperatures plummet. In light, even modest warming influences melting at glacier edges. The atmosphere responds with subtle adjustments, redistributing heat across hemispheres. There is something profoundly calming in recognizing these cycles. Wind is neither enemy nor ally. It is part of the system, responding to forces beyond itself. It carries dust, moisture, and energy in gentle arcs around the globe. You can allow your own thoughts to drift like those currents now. There is nothing to manage, nothing to predict. Just quiet awareness of how interconnected this Ice Age world truly is. As glaciers reflect sunlight and winds reshape plains, as dust settles softly on snowfields, the climate slowly approaches a turning point. Orbital patterns shift again. Sunlight increases slightly in northern summers. And beneath steady winds, beneath long nights and pale skies, a gradual warmth begins to gather, hinting at the long thaw that waits patiently ahead. There comes a time, after centuries of cold breath and wind across the White Plains, when something subtle begins to shift. It is not dramatic. There is no sudden cracking of the world. Instead, warmth gathers slowly, almost imperceptibly, like the first faint glow before dawn. The Ice Age does not end in a single moment. It loosens its grip gradually, on allowing the planet to soften. You can imagine standing at the edge of a glacier once more. For generations, it has pressed outward, heavy and patient. Now, in slightly warmer summers, melting begins to exceed snowfall in certain regions. Thin streams of water form along its surface, tracing delicate blue pathways downward. The glacier does not disappear overnight. It thins. It retreats by small degrees, exposing ground that has not felt open air in thousands of years. The change begins high in the sky. Subtle shifts in Earth's orbit alter the distribution of sunlight, particularly in northern latitudes. Summers become just warm enough to reduce the balance of ice. Snow that once lingered through every season now melts more fully before autumn returns. The cycle tilts gently toward thaw. As glaciers withdraw, landscapes transform. Valleys carved by ice fill with meltwater, forming clear lakes that reflect newly opened skies. Rivers swell with glacial runoff, carrying fine sediment across plains. The sound of flowing water grows more common, replacing some of the silence of frozen ground. You might picture moss and grasses creeping into freshly exposed soil. At first, only hardy pioneer plants take root, species able to endure poor rocky terrain. Their presence stabilizes the soil, trapping moisture and building the foundation for more complex growth. Over time, shrubs appear, followed by small trees. In regions once dominated by tundra and steppe, forests begin to spread. Birch and pine advance northward, following rising temperatures. Seeds carried by wind and animals find fertile ground. The once open horizon grows textured with trunks and branches. Shade replaces wide expanses of sunlight. Animals respond to these changes as well. Some species adapted to cold conditions gradually shift their ranges northward or to higher elevations where temperatures remain suitable. Others decline as habitats shrink. The mammoth steppe, so vast during peak glacial times, contracts as forests encroach. You do not need to see this as loss or victory. It is transition. Ecosystems evolve as climate does. Where grasses once dominated, woodlands now rise. Where glaciers stood tall, rivers carve winding paths through fresh valleys. Sea levels begin to rise as meltwater returns to the oceans. Coastlines move inland once more, covering plains that had connected continents. The Bering Land Bridge slowly submerges beneath waves, separating Asia and North America again. Islands form where hills once stood as part of a continuous landmass. The atmosphere adjusts in quiet synchrony. As ice retreats, less sunlight is reflected back into space. Darker land and open water absorb more warmth, reinforcing the thaw. Feedback loops gently amplify change, guiding the planet into a warmer phase. You can imagine standing in a landscape mid-transition. To one side, patches of lingering snow rest in shaded hollows. To the other, young trees sway lightly in a milder breeze. The air carries a hint of moisture, not present during the coldest periods. Birds unfamiliar to the earlier steppe begin to appear, drawn by new habitats. Human communities adapt as well. Migration patterns shift as animals move into different regions. New plant species provide additional food sources. Rivers and lakes formed by retreating glaciers become fresh corridors for travel and settlement. The thaw unfolds unevenly across the globe. Some regions warm earlier, others later. Yet the overall trend moves towards softness. Ice sheets that once dominated continents fragment and shrink. In their wake, landscapes bear the imprint of their passage. Smooth valleys, scattered boulders, deep basins now filled with water. You might feel a quiet sense of renewal here. After thousands of years shaped by cold, the Earth enters a new chapter. It does not erase the Ice Age, it transforms it. The memory of glaciers remains in carved rock and stored sediments. Permafrost thaws gradually in some areas, releasing ancient seeds and organic material. Microbes awaken and begin their slow work once more. Carbon, once locked in frozen soil, re-enters cycles of growth and decay. The atmosphere subtly changes in composition as well. There is no need to hurry through this warming. It unfolds across centuries. Generations of humans live and adapt within it, rarely perceiving the full scale of transformation. To them, change feels incremental. A slightly longer growing season, a river shifting its course. As you breathe gently now, imagine warmth spreading like a quiet tide across the land. Ice recedes into higher latitudes. Forests extend delicate branches into open air. Lakes shimmer where glaciers once stood. The world is not abandoning its past. It carries glacial signatures forward, woven into hills and coastlines. Yet it also opens space for new forms of life and new patterns of movement. And as this softer climate settles into place, as some of the giants who once thrived on open steppe find their habitats narrowing, their futures uncertain, inviting us to reflect on the delicate balance between adaptation and disappearance in a world forever in motion. As the long thaw settles across the land and forests begin to rise, where open steppe once stretched uninterrupted, the great herds grow quieter. Their paths become narrower. Their grazing grounds shrink, not suddenly, but gradually, as climate reshapes the terrain beneath their steady feet. You can imagine standing once more on the plain, though it is no longer as wide as before. Patches of woodland break the horizon. Rivers run fuller, fed by melting ice. The air carries a softer warmth. In this changing world, the giants of the Ice Age continue to move, but their world is shifting around them. Woolly mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, and other large herbivores had thrived in expansive open grasslands. Their bodies were built for cold, their diets suited to hardy vegetation that flourished in dry glacial climates. As forests expand and moisture increases, the balance of plants begins to change. Grasses that once dominated vast territories are gradually replaced by shrubs and trees in many regions. With this transformation comes a subtle pressure. Large grazers that depended on open plains must travel farther to find suitable feeding grounds. Populations become fragmented. Isolated groups remain in colder refuges where steppe conditions linger longest. Their numbers decline slowly over generations. At the same time, human populations continue to grow and spread. Communities adapt to new landscapes, not following rivers and forests as readily as they once followed open herds. Hunting techniques become more refined, tools grow more efficient. Cooperation strengthens group survival. Scientists today consider many factors when reflecting on the disappearance of these giants. Climate change alone alters habitat significantly, reshaping ecosystems and food availability. Yet human presence also becomes more widespread during this period. In some regions, evidence suggests that hunting may contribute to pressures on already vulnerable populations. You do not need to choose a single cause. The story is complex and woven from many threads. Environmental shifts reduce suitable habitats. Rising forests fragment open plains. Human hunters, skilled and adaptable, pursue large animals for food, clothing, and tools. Together, these influences create conditions under which megafauna struggle to persist. The process is not dramatic in a single moment. It unfolds over centuries. A herd grows smaller. A migration route disappears beneath new forest. A region that once supported hundreds of animals now supports only a few dozen. Birth rates slow. Survival becomes less certain. You may picture a final small group of mammoths wandering through a northern refuge where colder temperatures linger longest. Their thick fur still protects them. Their tusks still curve against pale sky. Yet their world is shrinking. They do not know they are the last of their kind. They simply continue to graze and migrate as their ancestors did. Extinction, in this sense, is not an event, but a gradual fading. It is the quiet absence that follows when a species can no longer sustain itself in changing conditions. The landscape continues. Other animals adjust and fill ecological niches. Forests deepen. Rivers widen. Life reorganizes. Predators that once relied heavily on large herbivores adapt or decline as well. Some species, such as saber-toothed cats and dire wolves, vanish alongside their primary prey. Others survive by shifting diets and territories. The web of relationships adjusts, strand by strand. You might feel a gentle sadness here, yet it is not a tragedy in the dramatic sense. It is part of Earth's rhythm. Throughout geological history, species appear, thrive, and disappear as climates shift and ecosystems transform. The Ice Age megafauna are one chapter in that long narrative. The fossil record preserves traces of their presence. Bones lie buried in sediment. Footprints remain impressed in ancient mud, later hardened into stone. Tusk fragments surface along riverbanks. These remnants remind us of the scale and diversity that once moved across cold plains. As you breathe slowly now, imagine standing at twilight on the edge of a forest that was once open grassland. The sky is wide, though trees now frame it. In the distance, perhaps only memory holds the shape of towering mammoths. The ground feels steady beneath your feet. Human societies continue to evolve in this warming world. Agriculture will eventually emerge in certain regions. Settlements will grow. Yet for now, people remain closely tied to seasonal rhythms, adapting to a landscape that no longer echoes with the footsteps of giants. The disappearance of megafauna does not mark an ending to life, but a turning of the page. New species rise in prominence. Ecosystems shift into forms that will define the next era of Earth's history. You do not need to hold on to every detail of this transition. Simply notice how change moves through time without haste. Ice advances and retreats. Forests expand. Animals flourish and fade. The planet breathes in cycles larger than any single lifetime. And as the echoes of giant footsteps grow faint beneath expanding forests and rising seas, we are left with a modern world shaped by those ancient rhythms. A world where traces of ice, wind, and wandering herds still whisper quietly beneath the sky we share today. When you look up at the sky tonight, it may seem calm and familiar. The stars rest in their quiet patterns. The air feels steady. Yet the world beneath that sky carries the memory of ice, wind, and wandering herds. The Ice Age has not vanished completely. It lingers in subtle forms, woven into the landscapes and lives that surround you now. You can imagine standing beside a modern mountain glacier, perhaps in a high alpine valley. The ice there is smaller than the vast sheets that once covered continents, yet it flows in the same slow manner. It creaks softly as it shifts. Meltwater trickles from its edges in summer. These remnant glaciers are echoes of a colder time, holding within them tiny bubbles of ancient air and layers of compressed snowfall. In many regions shaped by ice, the land still bears its signature. U-shaped valleys curve gently between mountain ridges. Smooth, rounded hills rise where glaciers once pressed heavily. Lakes fill basins carved long ago by frozen rivers. If you stand beside one of these lakes, watching its surface reflect the sky, you are witnessing a quiet gift from the Ice Age. Even coastlines carry this memory. Fjords cut deeply into rocky shores, their steep walls shaped by glaciers that once extended to the sea. Rolling plains in northern continents trace the paths of retreating ice sheets. The soil beneath farms and forests in these regions often contains fine sediment ground by ancient glaciers, nourishing crops in the present. The atmosphere itself still responds to cycles that guided the Ice Age. Earth's orbit continues to shift gradually over long spans of time, influencing sunlight distribution. While today's climate is shaped by additional human influences, the deeper rhythms of orbital change remain part of the planetary system. You do not need to untangle every thread of modern climate science here. Simply notice that Earth's history is not separate from its present. The same physical laws that allowed glaciers to grow and retreat continue to operate now. Energy from the sun, the reflectivity of ice, the movement of air and water all remain part of a delicate balance. There are echoes of the Ice Age within you as well. Genetic studies reveal that early human populations intermingled as they migrated across continents during glacial periods. Small fragments of DNA inherited from ancient relatives persist in many people today. These traces are subtle, yet they remind us that the journeys taken across frozen land bridges and open plains still shape the diversity of modern humanity. You might imagine those early migrations, families crossing wide tundra, following herds and rivers into new territories. Over generations, their descendants spread across continents. The patterns of language, culture, and settlement that emerge later are rooted in those distant movements. Plants and animals also carry Ice Age legacies. Some species that survived in small refuges during the coldest periods later expanded their ranges as the climate warmed. Forests that now stretch across temperate regions often descend from populations that endured in sheltered valleys during glacial peaks. The distribution of species today reflects ancient maps drawn by ice and thaw. Even the soils beneath your feet may contain pollen grains that settled thousands of years ago. Tiny remnants of long-gone vegetation remain embedded in sediments, preserving stories of shifting climates. The Earth continues to store memory quietly. As you breathe slowly, imagine layers of time beneath modern cities and forests. Beneath roads and rivers lie sediments shaped by glacial meltwater. Beneath those sediments lie stones smoothed by ancient ice. The present rests gently atop the past. There is something comforting in this continuity. The Ice Age was not a mistake or a catastrophe. It was a chapter in Earth's unfolding story. Life adapted, transformed, and persisted. The planet cooled and warmed again, guided by forces both subtle and immense. Modern scientists study ice cores, fossils, and sediments to better understand how climates change. These records help illuminate patterns that stretch far beyond a single lifetime. They remind us that Earth's systems are interconnected, responsive, and complex. You do not need to carry the weight of all that knowledge tonight. Simply allow the awareness that you live in a world shaped by deep time. The hills, lakes, and coastlines around you are part of a much longer narrative. Perhaps tomorrow, if you walk outdoors, you might notice a rounded hill or a winding valley and recognize the quiet influence of glaciers long gone. You might feel the steady presence of wind and remember how it once carried dust across open steppe. You might sense that beneath every familiar landscape lies a history measured in thousands of years. The giants of the Ice Age no longer roam the plains, yet their impact endures in soil patterns and ecological structures. The early fires of human communities no longer flicker in bone shelters, yet their descendants live in cities illuminated by electric light. The paintings in caves remain as silent witnesses to creativity under frozen skies. All of it connects: ice, wind, grass, fur, fire, and memory, threads woven into the tapestry of the present. As this journey gently comes to a close, notice how wide and still the world feels. So many lives unfolding quietly, whether we see them or not. You don't need to keep their names or stories. They've already done their work. If you enjoy these slow explorations, you can support the channel in any small way that feels natural, so others can find this calm too. But right now, there is nothing to decide and nowhere to go. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and the night carry you onward, one peaceful breath at a time.